podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
All right, Ed, how you doing?
Yo, I'm pretty good. That was sort of exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It looked like it was going to be an absolutely terrible game of football, and then one exploded into life. So we'll look back at the Sheffield United game, and we're going to look forward to the game against Astana,
Ooh.
but not the one after that, because we got some pretty big news. I'd say at the top of the show, some pretty big Rantcast related news.
Do we?
You want to tell the people why we're not previewing the game after Astana?
Because somehow, despite not being able to get a show out every week for the past 10 years, we've decided to go to twice a week. Double the goodness.
We're doing it.
Yeah. Amazing. So we will be recording on Thursday nights from now on. And probably next season as well, because there's not much chance for us being back in the Champions League, to be fair.
It's a real shame that we're going twice a week in the Europa League era, because it's Sunday, Thursdays are an unfortunate schedule for podcasters too. But it's essentially in response to the fact that we've consistently not been able to respond quickly to things that have happened, and I guess as the stakes get lower and lower, you almost need to respond quicker and quicker to make it of any relevance whatsoever, don't you? So in a vain effort to keep relevant in the YouTube age, we the podcasters are going twice weekly. People have asked us about this, well, for 10 years essentially.
Since the beginning,
yeah, and we are finally doing it.
Well, I mean, I think you're right, because a 1-0 loss away to Burnley, and we record 4 days later.
Yeah, so the plan from now on, I mean, listen, this is the best laid plans of mice and men, etc. But the plan from now on is that we're going to get a show out to you, the good people, every Monday and Friday. So hopefully you're all on board for this. And I guess we'll start as we mean to go on by reviewing in depth a very weird Manchester United performance. What did you make of all that, Ed?
Well, I thought United were completely rubbish. Absolute dog poo for 71 and however many seconds. It just awful. Couldn't keep the ball. Didn't seem to be able to organise the 3 at the back or the 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it, into anything like an effective defensive unit. We were being pressured all over the park and seemed shocked about it. I mean, did no one look at Sheffield United beforehand? They did some analysis, no? It was just incredible. It was as bad as anything we'd seen this season. And United were a complete mess. And then, almost out of nothing, Brandon Williams smacks one in and it all explodes into life. Just 71 minutes of turgid nothingness, followed by a bit of madness.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sheffield United were basically good all the way through the first 71 minutes of that game, as well as Manchester United. From here on out, who shall just be referred to as United, they were so bad. This game reminds me of the Palace game that Matic scored the winner in under Mourinho. Absolutely atrocious performance that a little burst of kind of energy and belief dramatically turned around. And I remember saying at the end of last week's show, you know, predicting a loss, but saying United have a very talented front three. So if they do something, things can happen. And actually, that is kind of what happened for United's kind of scoring flurry, because it was a nice cross from James that was headed out by the Sheffield United defender to the sort of back stick, where Brandon Williams was lurking for his 0.03 XG crack, which he did what Luke Shaw never could, basically. How many times has Luke Shaw tried to score that goal? Like, he'll have been watching this going, come on! It's his third game! How's he got this goal already?
Partly, of course, because Luke Shaw's right foot's a swinger.
Yeah, that's a key problem. And then both the other two goals were lovely work. Rashford's ball into Greenwood was brilliant, exploited Jagielka's weakness, and Greenwood's movement was perfect. And then that last goal was absolutely lovely interplay between James and Martial, and that brilliant cutback from James to Rashford, who did brilliantly. It was a superb goal.
Yeah, look, all three of United's goals were excellent in one way or another. It certainly masks. Well, look, it's not going to mask because we're going to talk about the reality of United's performance, but it could do if you only saw the result and the goals. It could mask what United were in that game, which was mostly a complete mess. So before Brandon Williams' goal, United had one shot on target. I mean, it was just terrible. There was no movement. Rashford, James had one of his worst United games up to that point. Martial, all completely static all of the time. And one of the, and a lot of blame on them, of course, a lot of blame on the midfield too of Pereira and Fred, who just couldn't get the ball in any decent positions at all. And nothing was coming really from the two wing backs. So United were just completely inert, a bit of both going forward for 70 minutes. And then we're explosive for 10.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. I mean, you said James had one of his worst games for United, and I think you're right. And I think he was the best of the front three in the first 70 minutes. That's how bad they were, because there were I wrote a load of notes during the game, and there were two moments in the first half where there were vaguely promising counterattacks, of course, which came to nothing. But they both involved James and Martial a little bit of interplay. I mean, we're talking about, like I've said before, used the analogy before, we're talking about a cactus getting water in the desert here. This was not quality. I mean, so before the game started, we knew this was going to be an absolute nightmare when you've got Phil Jones in a back three and Pereira and Fred as a midfield two. I described this game to a friend of mine as like watching me play PES. So I'm not very good at PES, and one of the mistakes I make over and over and over again is the ridiculous overuse of the through ball button at times when it couldn't possibly work. And this was just Pereira and Fred all the way through this game, just in midfield, hitting triangle, trying to play through balls, wildly inaccurate time after time after time. Almost all of my notes before the goal are Fred and Pereira giving the ball away in ridiculous positions.
Well, yeah, and it happened over and over again. I mean, they were guilty a lot. Pereira was guilty for United's second goal, wasn't he? Losing the ball. And on the first occasion, I guess Jones you can blame for being.
You guess.
Who lost ball?
You guess. This was one of the most catastrophically awful pieces of defending I've ever seen in my life. It was pathetic, and he had looked like an accident waiting to happen from the first second of that game, and then he did that, and no one was surprised.
Yes, he went in for a couple of over-the-ball challenges, didn't he? And just didn't manage to get hold of his opponent. Otherwise, there could have been some shattered legs going on there. And probably Jones's, given his injury record, yes. Jones bullied for the first one. Nice cutback. Not sure De Gea could have done much more than block it. And it's in from John Fleck. Second one, Pereira just so weak to lose the ball. And Mousset, who's very good the whole game, dangerous, very direct, just a lovely finish, wasn't it? Low, hard into the corner. And Sheffield United were good for both of those goals, definitely. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd gone on and scored more, except, Ole changed things around. And, well, I suppose he changed things around at half-time, which he had to. He could have probably done it after about 10 minutes, to be fair, and brought Jesse Lingard in. And then when did he make the second substitution? Was it before or after Brandon Williams? Just after Brandon Williams scored, wasn't it? And Greenwood was warming up. Yeah, came on for Pereira and scored basically his first or second touch or something like that. And so, I guess credit to Ole there, although maybe Greenwood could have get a go in the front three at some point.
Yeah, although I'm not sure the problem with the team selection in this game was that Greenwood didn't start. There were clearly other problems. And I want to just go back a bit because before their first goal, which, like you say, Dave couldn't really have done much more. In fact, he did brilliantly to get a classic De Gea save on it. He'd done 2 classic De Gea saves just before that because there was the Lundstrom shot which he dived to his right and you would say is like, oh, that's a good save. And then within 3 seconds, he's made an absolutely outstanding save from the header from close range. Just brilliant, pure De Gea, absolutely back to his best. And I kind of thought it was so unfortunate the ball bounced out to Fleck, not for United, who didn't deserve anything more than to be a goal down, but for David De Gea, who'd made 3 outstanding saves in the first 20 minutes of the game, only for United to be 1-0 down. I wanted to talk about that second goal as well, because Ole had made at half-time he went to a back 4. And you're right, he could have changed it after 10 minutes. And there is an argument to say, even though you would have destroyed the player forever, he's already destroyed. Phil Jones should have been off in the first 10 minutes of that game because it was so evident that this was going to be a disaster. And that ball, it was a hopeful percentage hoof into the channel, which Jones was just... he just got out-muscled and out-thought, and he just looked all over the place. And to be fair, he's hardly played any football, but he's got to...
Yeah, rightly so,
exactly.
Some would say.
His development has not just stalled, it's slammed into reverse. And it's like that... have you seen the video doing the rounds of the dog that was standing on the accelerator pedal driving a car round and round in circles? That's Phil Jones's career, basically, only with less calamitous accidents in it than Phil Jones's career. A dog is better at driving than Phil Jones is at defending at this point.
A dog may be better at defending than Phil Jones is at defending. Or driving. I wouldn't trust Phil Jones. Would you get in a car with Phil Jones?
Absolutely not.
Not a chance. Not a chance. No, look. That was calamitous, and I suppose the other big weakness, apart from the defensive shape for United, was central midfield, of course. And Ole couldn't have done much more, given that I suppose Nemanja Matic wasn't fit, unless he is fit and he's been punished for his Instagram shenanigans. A man clearly on his way out of this club. James Garner was on the bench, another option, but Ole had to go with the senior men. It was a different shape than pretty much they'd played at any point. I don't remember United playing a 3-4-3 this season. They've always had an extra midfielder in there rather than the kind of 3 up front and 4 across the midfield, and it was just really, really open. It was really open, and. Of course, it's unlucky that Pogba and McTominay are both injured and can't play. And of course, they'd strengthen that midfield. But it was United's choice not to buy any central midfielders for the last 400 transfer windows or whatever it is.
2.
2, but still, it's close.
Yeah,
it's close.
Close to
lost
400.
Herrera and Fellaini in the past year and haven't replaced them. And asking McTominay, who's been pretty good this season, and Pereira, who's definitely not, to fill in the gaps.
Oh no, it's
this is what you get. This is why you lose points.
The second goal, I want to talk about Lindelof as well. Well, Lindelof and Maguire, Maguire's under the lights. It's coming, it's happening. Everybody's talking at him. They're talking about how he was cost 80 million, and it doesn't seem that he's that good.
Please stop. Please stop.
I just stopped. And what was so objectionable to you about that, Ed? Was it the sweet, tuneful nature of the singing, or the jovial tone? The thing about
there were cats outside scratching their eyes out.
That was total. Just so you know, Ed, that was all totally
funny
in
enough,
tune.
That's the same sound they were making as well as you're singing.
Totally in tune. So this is a general objection that I have, not to you, but to the world, is when people are singing in tune and other people are like, oh, that's terrible. It happens all the time on comedy shows. Anyway, talking of comedy shows, what Lindelof and Maguire were doing when Pereira lost that ball it looked like they were still defending in a back three. If you look at their position, you talked about them being too far apart a lot. They were absolutely miles apart. Now, it all happened quite quickly, and it was a transition gone wrong, but it looked structurally absolutely all over the place. I'm no expert in these things at all, but it looked structurally all over the place to me.
Well, look, I think actually the narrative that United have been punting out about Maguire is, wasn't this an excellent signing? And look at our analysis work that we've done. Isn't this amazing? And I just think it's flat wrong. One, you don't need 400 analysts to pick out Harry Maguire and spend £80 million. And two, I don't think he's had that good a start for United. I mean, before today, I'd counted 6 very prominent errors that had led to goals from United. And I think actually what it is not that he's been particularly bad. He's just been Harry Maguire. Maguire does make mistakes, and I just feel he's a notch below the elite level, and I'd love for him to have grown a bit, but he's come into an absolute shambles of a team, and I don't think he has so far. Now, having said that, of course, United before today hadn't been conceding a lot of goals. So we've got to give him some credit for that. He's certainly better than Phil Jones and Chris Smalling. Oh, Chris Smalling scored for Roma today. Nice header into the down, good for him. He's apparently having a good time over in Italy at the moment. So Maguire's an improvement on what we had, but I don't think he's at the kind of elite levels. He's not had the Van Dijk effect yet. Look, there's time for him to grow, of course. He's still a reasonably young man. I just think some of his mistakes fit into a pattern. And Lindelof makes mistakes, doesn't he? For his entire time at United, he has made mistakes. And there are periods when we really hope for him to come really good and to be a leader. And he certainly felt like he'd grown towards at least part of last season under Ole. And he started as Maguire's first choice partner. He should be under some pressure, I think, once Tuanzebe's properly fit. But as a pair, I'm not sure they're perfect yet. They're far from perfect.
So I just wanted to share a few notes that I'd written during the game. One is in all caps, which is, does nobody teach these forwards movement? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm no expert, but aren't these the basics? Like, watching the front three, and you can understand, like, having a bad midfield, I guess, makes forwards more static because they're less trusting that they'll receive the ball or that, their movement won't be wasted. But then having static forward line makes midfields worse as well. So there was a kind of horrible, vicious cycle going on. And I did not understand why the three of them were just almost literally standing in position, sort of. I mean, I don't believe for 1 second it's lack of, as Gary Neville was banging on about ad nauseum, lack of desire or intent. There's just something wrong with the plan, as far as I can see. Like, why aren't they making more runs off the ball? Has football changed? Do you not need to do that anymore? Is there something sophisticated happening that I'm not aware of? Or are they just kind of fed up and depressed and don't know what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, I mean, and you've got to say what's happening in terms of the patterns of play that they're trying to build on the training field. I mean, this is all about coaching. Not necessarily having a go at Ole here, although I probably am.
Well, it's time though. Why are we not? Like, what on earth has he done to suggest that we should be gentle and kind to him because we love him? I mean, I know the answer could just be 99.
Yeah, well, it is partly that, and it's also partly because I know what he's working with, and it's not great. And he has made the decision to jettison a whole bunch of players. So Smalling, Jones, until today mostly, Matic, Lukaku and Sanchez, like all really senior players. He didn't make the decision to get rid of Herrera. That was the club by not offering the contract quick enough. So, there's a lot of seniority gone out of the squad, and he's working under the assumption, and as he said on Friday, I'm working for the club, not for me. So he's working to build something longer term. At least he fully believes that. I believe him when he says that. So the raw ingredients aren't great. the added value of Ole at the moment is it's really inconclusive that he's very high. And then specifically to the point we were talking about around patterns of play, it doesn't take very long, actually. I mean, it takes longer than defensive solidity to coach into a team, but it doesn't take very long to establish what is a pattern of play. Now, at the moment, United's pattern of play is extremely reactive, and today, United's made about 40% more passes than Sheffield United, and it's one of those games where typically we don't look great. Now, we've scored 3 goals in 7 minutes, so that changes things a little bit, but there were only 5 shots on target in the entire game. United weren't creating good stuff. 1.33 XG here, which tells you that apart from those sort of 7 minutes of madness, this was not a team that had a game plan that was creating a lot of chances against an albeit defensively good side. So I do wonder what they're doing. And the point prior to that, which stimulated that, was that these forwards are very, very static. And it's true, they are, and it doesn't make any sense because individually they're extremely dynamic, but as a team, they're definitely not. They're definitely not.
And this is why I don't buy it to be about intent or passion or any of that stuff, because when they're on the counter, they are giving it absolutely 10 bells. And there was something, I think it might have been on a Ramble Meets lately. There was a conversation with a footballer who says very often players are made to look bad by coaching instructions. And, you're getting the crowd wondering, why aren't you chasing after this ball or whatever, when actually the coach's instructions have been very clear, don't chase after this player, put the pressure on when he's got the ball, not when he's got the ball, this kind of thing. And you're looking at that going, are they saving all their energy for counterattacks? What's happening? Because they're so static, it looks like that's what they're meant to be doing. But that can't be what they're meant to be doing, because nothing ever comes of
very
it.
True.
It's not like...
Look, so the contrast with Sheffield United was really interesting because Chris Wilder's garnered a lot of praise this season, rightly so. He's taken their club on a very small budget up to mid-table, better than mid-table in the Premier League, and they've no right to be there, really. And he's playing with sort of 3 at the back and given licence to at least 2 of those 3 central defenders to push forward into midfield. And, there's some innovation there. But actually, a lot of their patterns of play are pretty rudimentary. I mean, they play some pretty direct balls, caught United out for the first goal, of course, but they're a low possession team that's happy to play into the channels and happy to put a lot of crosses in, basically. So, 30 crosses in from Sheffield United today. And some of that's not... And they press really hard and they press all over the pitch and they harry and they're intense and all of that, but it's nothing so sophisticated that United should be flummoxed by it. But at times it looked like we were. But the thing that you can see in Sheffield United is they are going to work their socks off all of the time, and they're always on the move. Even if individually there's 11 players there individually who'd get nowhere near this United team, and it's a very bad United team. You'd think. Right, but they're above United. Well, they're above United in the table right now, and have played us off the pitch for about 80 of those 90 minutes.
Yeah, and I would immediately swap Fred and Pereira for whoever it was that was playing at Lundstrom and whoever it was that was playing alongside him in their central midfield. So we get to 3-2. It looks like we're going to do exactly what we did against Palace and fully rob them in one of the most undeserved robberies of all time on the pattern of play for the course of the game. But then friend of the show at Luke Jurdy asks, big mistake taken off Martial and trying to see the game out when clearly we couldn't defend today. Is Ole as clueless as it seems, or am I being harsh? Feel like today was a bit of a last straw despite the comeback. And a lot of people, I mean, it's very clear that there are huge numbers of United fans absolutely sick of Ole not giving him anything like the kind of patience that you've been kind enough to offer him here. But beyond that part of the question, the substitution to take Martial off and bring Tuanzebe on it was understandable because we were still quite
trying
open,
to shut it down.
But
yeah, I mean, look, if Jose had done that, that's a masterclass, right? You know, the LUHG crowd would be like going, "See, I told you."
No. If Jose had done that, you would spend 25 minutes talking about what an idiot Mourinho was for doing the thing that he did every time that never worked. And we both know that never works. United can't take off a forward and bring on a defender, especially since it meant another shift in shape to the shape that had been so spectacularly unsuccessful. I actually thought it was a genuinely awful substitution, genuinely awful, and it would have been if Mourinho had done it, and it was because Ole did it.
So, I mean, look, you can understand the thinking though, and Ole's substitutions 99 times out of 100 are a kind of basic rationalisation of obvious stuff, aren't they? He's definitely not innovative in terms of his in-game management, so he's just trying to shut that game down, and some basic normal defending would have seen it out, and it's also about the players on the pitch, and their in-game management, and being able to just keep the ball and slow the game down. They only had to do it for 4 minutes that Tuanzebe was on the pitch. That's all they had to do.
And they were not successful in doing that. Big sort of VAR chat. I know, not worth having big VAR chat again, but I didn't think it looked like a handball to me from watching it slowed down over and over and over again. But I know some people are absolutely adamant there's no way the ball could have dropped like that if it had not hit the inside of his arm. I mean, I think that a little bit of me watching that going, it's never handball, is partly just we did not deserve to win that game. But it didn't look like handball.
No, I mean, it's top of shoulder and arm, isn't it? It's right in the stanchion, isn't it? So
where the spiders live.
Look, they've looked at it in slow motion. They've got a very good camera angle and said no handball. So we'll stick with that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. But VAR, absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt. I have flip-flopped so hard on this subject, Ed. I know you're a fan of making fun of me as a flip-flopper, but I prefer to see it as being a quality of open-mindedness. But this thing, the sooner this thing is no longer part of football, the better, because there's got to be a way of making
it's not
it
going to
okay.
Be soon,
but
so the Premier League professional match official gaming board, whatever they're called, met with the Premier League a couple of weeks ago, and all came out of the meeting going, "Isn't this wonderful? Congratulations," slapping themselves on the back. So no changes in VAR. They're all very happy with it.
But I mean, like, that goal celebration is the kind. I know it's the baddie team, right? But that goal celebration is exactly the kind of goal celebration that should never ever be. It's fine if, like, the whistle goes immediately afterwards, and that's fine. You celebrate, you get that kind of oh no, but like the full celebration, and then do we celebrate this or not? It's the worst.
Well, I suppose in this case they got to celebrate it twice.
They did. So I think that's the Sheffield United game. Let's move on to some listener questions before we're going to talk about Astana before we say the words FC Astana a couple of times.
Let's go for it.
All right. While I'm still back on Twitter, which is probably not going to be for very long, I'll do these give you a bit of a break from it, Ed. At RyanDino7 says, well, everyone else asked this question, so I thought I'd just take it once. And I liked Ryan's spin on it. He says, with Pochettino now freely available, would it not be worth bringing him in to play in midfield? Tahith Chong's wavy hair at J. McKeown Esquire, friend of the show, says, am I insane, or have we been really bad at throw-ins for the better part of the last decade? Oh, just kidding. Poch, right? He wasn't really asking about throw-ins, listeners. It was a trick. Oh. He was asking about Pochettino. So we should talk about it. The big news of the week. The most, and in fact, at Remington_Moses asks, any ideas why for the first time in my life I very suddenly started despising Spurs?
Yeah, Pochettino fired by Spurs. And look, in terms of supposed results over the last 6 months or so, it might even be longer than that. They've been in such a big slump. It's I guess, not a surprise. The manager, CEO, he might as well appoint himself manager. CEO Daniel Levy deciding they just couldn't carry on with this, and of course there's been a lot of talk that Pochettino's attitude has changed a significant amount since that Champions League loss. And that the players can't really understand some of the changes, and he's in a funk not only because of the loss, but because he didn't get all the players he wanted in the summer. Although he got quite a lot of new players, and Levy, well, we were surprised, I suppose, that he, in a sense, that Pochettino was fired because Pochettino had this £34 million get out clause, and there's an awful lot of clubs that would like to hire Pochettino, despite the sort of bad past 6 months or so. Including at one stage Manchester United, but United were quick to brief this week that no, they're sticking with Ole, and they have their plan, their 3-year plan, or however much is long left on that 3-year plan, and Pochettino won't be getting the United job. Probably should be, though, shouldn't he? It'd be mad to take it, mind you.
Well, this is the thing that you've said a number of times, is that he just shouldn't be coming anywhere near the job. Let's just say that United's pro-Solskjaer spin is at least in part spin, and really they're not as insane as all that. The thing that I keep thinking about is when Nigel Adkins got sacked and they brought in Pochettino at Southampton. Nigel Adkins did nothing whatsoever to warrant being sacked. He got them promoted and he was keeping them in the division, and someone at Southampton had the vision to say, that's all very well, but this guy could take us to a whole nother level because he's absolutely special. And of course, there was a lot of criticism when Adkins was sacked. But the truth is that decision was proved to be a spectacularly sensible one. And even if Ole was doing a much better job than he's doing, because let's not make any mistakes about it. You said earlier, I'm not sure how much value he's adding. That seems very generous at the moment. Pochettino is a world-class squad builder. Building an ethic and identity. I don't mean buying players. Building a squad into something. There's a lot of raw material that he could be working with at United. It would be a fantastic fit in every way. Shouldn't we just be binning Ole off and getting Poch in, not because Ole's terrible, but because Poch is brilliant?
You would think that would make an awful lot of sense. I mean, I think it depends on what percentage of the blame you put on Ole for United's current malaise and what percentage you put on the club and the structures, right? So let's run through this. I suspect it's something like 80 to 90% is on the club, and the rest of it's on Ole. Now, you could turn that argument around and say, well, if you just add a few more percentage points through a better coach, aren't you going to get a better outcome? And that's probably true. But the same thing will still apply. United are going to struggle to buy the right kind of players, make the right kind of connections in Europe, make the right kind of investments at the right time, and struggle to stick to a vision. And Pochettino, I have absolutely no doubt, is an upgrade on Ole. Let's just imagine he comes in. We will be dumping one apparent 3-year plan for a different one. Maybe it's a better 3-year plan, but it's still going to be under this kind of absolute scattergun transfer policy, a club that is, and a club that every single manager over the last 7 years has said is more focused on commercials than the actual football. Every single one. Woodward denies it. Another investor call this week, which we don't have to go into at any length, but he went to real lengths once again to talk about football. We're focused on football. That the man protesteth too much. Yeah. So Pochettino would be an immediate upgrade, I'm sure, and he's got all the things that United are spinning that they're doing: building a squad, young, trying to be smart in the market, trying to be sensible about it, being patient, taking the time, building it the right way. He's got all that, and he's proven that he can do it, and Ole hasn't. And so he would be a great acquisition as a coach. The problem is what's going to be above him is going to screw him over. And then just final word on Pochettino. Quite a few people go, but he's never won trophies. I don't worry about that at all. If the Real Madrid job's open tomorrow, or the Barcelona job or the Bayern job is open now, he's going to be offered that job in a heartbeat. Because they know what he can bring.
Yeah, and one thing about structure is it's not like Spurs. I mean, Mourinho has spent all week talking about what a wonderful structure Tottenham have, but it's not like that structure has rewarded Pochettino much. You talk about like difficulties making the right connections in Europe, buying the right players. Like Pochettino's been starved of bringing in quality players and has done everything he's done without backing and without good structure and all that kind of stuff at board level. You could argue that they've done a great job of keeping players, and that's kind of causing a bit of a problem now. But they've done a great job at keeping players, but they've not done a good job at building a squad in terms of bringing players in and supplementing.
Their budget's less than half of United's, so less than half.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's obviously a key point, but it's not like he's done what he's done at Tottenham with a fantastic structure in place around him. Should we just talk a little bit about the decision that Tottenham Hotspur have made to essentially, like, it's all gone wrong, as we can all agree, it's all gone wrong under Pochettino. Like you said, his attitude's apparently changed, the players, all this stuff. We know what's happened, and that feels very much like they've reached the end of the cycle, and there is that kind of limitation. They haven't refreshed the squad enough in a kind of Fergie-esque way to give him another 5 years with another cycle of players. And maybe just Fergie being Fergie is the only person that can do that, because Arsene Wenger did get those new crops of players and never did it again. So he's reached the end of his cycle, but it's been a cycle about building, about making the feeling between the fans and the club one of something really special and that really belongs to them, that there are values above and beyond just winning that matter, and that kind of looking to the future and building towards something is absolutely kind of core value at that club now. And then they appointed Jose Mourinho
I know.
as their manager.
It's easy to get trapped into a narrative because of what has happened at Spurs over the last 5 years, that somehow Levy makes every decision correctly. Yeah, he plays the game in the transfer market, and he does have the right kind of connections, and he has managed to leverage more out of that club than their budget makes you think they could achieve. But he's made some stinking decisions in terms of managerial appointments as well, and because they're working on a low budget, lower than the other big clubs, they've taken some gambles on players that haven't worked out. So. And this one is just really weird because it's I don't know if it's the polar opposite of Pochettino. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's definitely not long-term philosophy, building. Maybe they feel that they've got enough quality there that a manager who's focused all on the end result is what they need now. Or maybe they just panicked a little bit and Mourinho was available. And Mourinho's talked a good game this week. He's so good at talking a good game. He's come across as humble, and his people have been spinning this notion that he's had this period of reflection away from the game, and he's reflected on the mistakes he's made, and he's not going to make those mistakes again, and he's going to be more patient. But inside 12 months, when he doesn't get the players he thinks he needs, and he's jettisoned some, he's decided that he doesn't want anymore. And he's going to be grumbling. He's going to be making those noises. People are going to be saying, I need the players, otherwise I'm off. He's going to be putting the pressure on, and it could come crashing down as well as it has everywhere else. And he's going to get even less resources at Spurs than he's had at United or Chelsea or Real Madrid.
Yeah, and the thing is, we know this, we've seen this. Everyone knows this. Everyone's seen this. The one really genuinely interesting thing he's done, like if you kind of take whatever personal negative feelings I might have towards Jose Mourinho's tenure at Manchester United and the insane civil war that he's left in his wake, it's very interesting that he's got a whole new backroom staff. That's kind of genuinely tactically interesting, and then it's a younger backroom staff, and it does look like he's really trying to kind of come up with some new ideas and stuff, which that isn't going to change who Jose Mourinho is as a person, but it'll be interesting to see what a bearing it has on his
stole a couple of
tactics
coaches from Lille who are not happy about it at all. And Rui Faria is not at his side for the first time in about 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And he got off to a winning start against Miguel Pellegrini's West Ham United. I had a request from friend of the show at Aman Palman to mention Miguel Pellegrini on the show. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. It's a very long time ago when he was managing City. Someone tweeted at Rob Pollard, who was then at the Manchester Evening News, that Miguel Pellegrini should be sacked. And there's very little that's ever made me laugh more than a City fan calling Pellegrini Miguel Pellegrini. Anyway, all right, a couple more questions. Mika Latonen, as you say, friend of the show, he says, every time a left-back's on the verge of replacing Ashley Young in the starting 11, they mysteriously seem to get injured. Is Ashley Young, in fact, a warlock who's using his dark powers to curse his rivals? And if so, why isn't he using his powers to help United? I think Brandon Williams is not getting injured because of a curse. He's getting injured because he's insanely double hard. He tried to clear the ball for a corner with his testicles in this game, and he succeed in doing so, putting his body flinch. Very much on the line.
Didn't notice, but a scratch. One of his balls hanging off. So, he wasn't perfect today. Softly gave away the ball within about 5 minutes of the start of this game, didn't he? Was caught out of position sometimes because Sheffield United did push hard down the right-hand side of their attack. So he's got a lot to learn, but he's got a fine goal, and he's definitely not a downgrade in that position.
No, he's the best option, isn't he? At Sambo_Evo says, great show, you two. Can I be unblocked now? Obviously, I've been back on Twitter for 5 minutes. People are asking me to get you to unblock them, Ed. He says, I'm rehabilitated. Think Morgan Freeman in Shawshank levels, but without as nice a voice. So I've looked at his infractions because I do my due diligence before I put in the unblocking request. And I would say that it essentially, Ed, this is your call, because it's whether or not 3 years and a promise of rehabilitation is enough, because he definitely deserved the blocking in the first place. Just to be clear, Sam, you fully deserved that original blocking. So this is all about whether Ed takes you at your word that you've rehabilitated.
I don't see blocking as punishment. Look, there's some loud bloke down the pub who's being a bit offensive. You're like, mate, I don't want to talk to you. If they're talking a bit loudly and you don't like what they sound like, you might move tables. That's muting. So I didn't want to talk to him, apparently. So I don't see it as a punishment, but since you've asked so nicely.
All right, excellent.
And now they brought mute in a few years back. I hit mute far more often than I hit block. So if you're a bit snarky, and I was talking to you, and then I don't talk to you again for some reason, it's because you're howling into the wind.
And talking of asking, I asked the question before the game, and a friend of the show at office_monkey Martin said, yet another missed penalty today, when will it end? Which very much made me laugh when I look back at the questions later, because I realised he'd asked it before the show started. It was a
good shout though. Good shout
bet,
though. Yeah. There's
exactly.
like probably a 50-50 that he could have been right there.
So I think we're going to beat Astana 3-0. What do you think?
Well, they're rubbish, aren't they?
I mean, yeah, they're not playing at a high level. The travel. This is the absolute pinnacle Europa League banter era fixture.
Can United even get a direct flight?
No, they'll definitely have to charter one, because Sam Homewood, friend of the show, who now works for MUTV, he's already on the road. They're in Moscow now, on their way there, because it takes so long to get there. If you I'm sure that the team will charter a flight, won't they? But this is like peak banter era United, 10-4 on a Thursday afternoon kickoff away in Kazakhstan. The shame of this fixture. The shame.
Well, funny thing is, I was thinking mentally in my head that I would really like a nice night's sleep on Wednesday night. And my 2-year-old doesn't often allow me to have that nice night's sleep because it's going to be a late one recording the show. It doesn't have to be.
Absolutely not. No,
We are not going to Astana, folks. Otherwise, we'd be recording it on the road. But we can start that one not too late.
Yeah, I'm finishing work at 6:00, so I'll have the game completely recorded. I'll have avoided spoilers. Between 6 and 8 o'clock, I shall watch the game and we'll record what is the first of many midweek podcasts from here on out. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited about this. And listen, the aim is not to provide in-depth coverage of the group stages of the Europa League, because what a pointless exercise that is. But we are going to get through this group. We've qualified, and there's a decent chance we're going to finish top of the group. So hopefully we'll get a reasonable draw, and then come the new year, there'll be some European football that maybe has something riding on it, and it'll be great to be able to cover that. But mostly it will be just an opportunity to kind of react to the news of the week, and and there'll be a lot of fixtures over the Christmas period, obviously, and we're going to just keep these coming thick and fast, basically.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been a long time coming that we're moving to twice a week, and so from the beginning of next season we're moving to daily, aren't we? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Tom has just had a heart attack in the production studio there. We did offer Tom to get a second editor, and at the moment he's saying no, he wants to do it. So
he's hardcore.
Good for hardcore. Yes, he's Brandon Williams hardcore. Taking it in the nuts for the Rankcast. Tom is
definitely the Brandon Williams of sound design. All right, so thank you very much for listening to the show. We'll see you on Friday, and Patreon backers, stay tuned for some more.
See you next week. Hi, and before we leave this week, just a reminder that you can subscribe in iTunes, leave us a review and a rating. It really helps the rest of the community find the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show. Bye now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.